Greetings, foolish mortal. I am the multi-voice reviewer. I have many voices, but one opinion. And today, this is another multi-voice-owing. Today, I got a very special review for you folks, and I think you're going to get a kick out of this. One thing I guess you guys should know about me is this. I love classic movie monsters. This are my favorite monsters in history. The Universal monsters, I just can't get enough of. I mean, I always love watching the classics. I love watching Dracula, Frankenstein, the Wolfman, Invisible Man, the Mummy, Phantom of the Opera, and the Creature of the Black Lagoon. And of course, there were other Universal monsters I also enjoyed watching myself. And sadly, back in 2017, I heard that they were planning to do a remake, that they were planning to reboot the Universal Monsters, and I was pretty thrilled. And one thing I started to notice that their first horror movie, Universal Monster movie they made, is this. They made their adaptation of The Wolfman, starring Benicio del Toro. Now, this movie, it's not a bad movie. It's really good. It just has a lot of pros and cons involved in this. But sadly, The Wolfman, it wasn't exactly big on the box office, but it's still entertaining nonetheless. And then they added again when they made another one, Dracula Untold, where they're trying to make Dracula be more like a superhero than than the Lord of all vampires and King of the Monsters. And it's sort of the retailed story of Vlad the Impaler, but with a vampire twist to it. Now, this movie's not bad, I'll give it that. But the problem is the movie was so cliche. I mean, if you ever watch Bram Stoker's Dracula, it's a lot like this, except expanded on the origin. All of a sudden I heard that Universal has a new direction called the Dark Universe. The Dark Universe, where it's supposed to be the darker and scarier version of the Universal monster. Ever since Disney kept making the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Universal's trying to do the same thing, but with monsters, and have a huge crossover, like they did in the past. And of course, they were having an all-star cast in the movie, and sadly, their downfall is that they made Tom Cruise's The Mummy. And sadly, it failed. Although I still like the idea that the mummy should be a woman, which I have to admit, it's a new twist, because most of the Universal monsters are just more like an all-boys club, no women. And the only women they had in their universe is the Bride of Frankenstein. And that's about it. Although there is Daughter of Frankenstein, but I'll talk about the rest later. And making Tom Cruise turn out to be sort of the hero in the story, which, that was a big no. Although I still like the Brendan Fraser Mummy movies, which they were really awesome. Heck, I even love, nobody doesn't like it, but I still love it, Van Helsing, which that was a really good movie itself. Hugh Jackman was really awesome. Heck, if you heard me say this before, I beat the video game of Van Helsing, the video game adaptation. And after seeing this one movie, that it came from Vertigo, the Vertigo is like the darker version of DC, where it's more grown up and mature. There was a comic book series called League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, created by a British story writer and artist, Alan Moore. And they made this movie, which I liked it. I mean, it was really good. But sadly, the criticism of this movie caused Sean Connery to retire from acting. They should have a better team-up franchise. And of course, one thing you know about me is I love DC. Warner Brothers own the rights to all the DC superhero movies, and ever since the Marvel Cinematic Universe created Iron Man, the Hulk, Thor, and Captain America, and let it to be a tie-in to the Avengers, the DC Cinematic Universe is trying to do the same thing, but one thing I gotta tell you, it's not easy being a DC fan. What I have here are a group of movies. Some of them are good, some of them are not so good. I mean, I know some people don't like the Man of Steel, which I thought it was okay. And I'm a little iffy on Batman v Superman. I mean, they made Batman kind of dumb. He should be more smarter, more catching up on what's going on, instead of focusing on Superman thinking that he's a bad guy. And the Suicide Squad was not bad. You should see my review of the Suicide Squad. Now I heard that James Gunn is going to be directing the sequel to Suicide Squad. All hope to James Gunn. And I also heard about the sequel of Wonder Woman, and the movie Shazam is doing pretty well. But one problem I do have, though, what they made so far, is, of course, the Justice League movie. Now, they did focus more on the comic book version, because in the comic books, it was Batman who rounded up all the metahumans and formed the Justice League, not Superman. But the problem was they just put a lame villain. I mean, come on, Steppenwolf? They should bring in a better villain than that. And also arguments about the actor who played Superman, where he refused to shave his mustache, so they keep digitally removing it, which he looks really stupid. But But I know what you guys are thinking. Why am I talking about Universal Monsters and DC superheroes? What's all this got to do with this review? Well, this is what I'm going to be talking about. I'm going to be talking about a group of monsters in the DC universe, and the best one, I would say, deserves to be made into a movie. I mean, these monsters in the DC universe can make Universal have a run for their money. And the best team of monsters in this one is none other than, that I got the graphic novel of, is Creature Commando! That's right, Creature Commando. A group of monsters who are soldiers, ready to battle against the Nazis in World War II. Hey, since this is a war movie, attention! Major Multi-Voice reporting for duty. I never thought I'd wear my old army uniform again. Although I'm still wearing my Halloween pumpkin, but it's still a monster thing. Now, some of you are wondering, who are the Creature Commandos? Now, I cannot bore you on the stories, but I'm going to give you the facts. Just the facts, people. The Creature Commando appeared in this mythology comic book called The Weird War, and they appeared in issue number 93 back in November 1st, 1980. 1980. That's where all the good ones came from. Now, according to the series here, it turns out, as you can see in the comic, the Grim Reaper himself was the host in the series. Hey, Mr. Death, I didn't know you were a host of the series.
Oh yes, I remember. A long time ago, there was a lot of weird things happening back in World War II, and I was there. All I did is I find a lot of weird things going out during the Second World War, and of course a lot of strange things been happening. So therefore, I decided to tell the most unbelievable stories happening back then in World War II. Sometimes when you're the angel of death, you have to go out during the war. I mean, my brother War should have been out there, but sadly he was busy doing something else. So who knows? Anyway, this is Mr. Death saying it's great being here. And by the way, when am I ever going to see that Final Destination movie and have my opinions on that?
Later, Mr. Death, later. I'm going to talk to you about Final Destination, and I'm going to let you review it, okay? Yeah. Mr. Death is still bugging me about Final Destination. He really doesn't like that movie, and he wants to give his opinion about the movie. Anyway, Creature Commando was a really awesome story. And it all started in some sort of a military lab called Project M, where they do supernatural experiments on soldiers. And therefore, one soldier united a group of other soldiers who are monsters. So, pretty much, instead of telling you the story through the book, I think it's time for a Creature Commander roll call! Meet Lieutenant Sergeant Riv. He is actually the only human who teams up with the Creature Commando. He rounds up the troops, tell them what their mission is. And even sometimes he always calls his troops freaks. He's going like, "Okay, freaks, listen and listen good. Our next mission is going to that mysterious island where they say that there are dinosaurs running around." But he is a good leader for the troops. Now the monsters. Elliot Lucky Tyler. He is a Frankenstein monster. He was once a brave soldier who died in action, but they did a Frankenstein experiment on him, and now he came back to life as a monster. Except he doesn't talk, so all he does is groan and moan. But he does have a kind heart, so he's pretty much the gentle giant of the troops. Sergeant Vincent Velcro, the vampire. He was once cursed by a vampire bite, and therefore became the only soldier who's a vampire who knows how to battle the supernaturals and the Nazis. With Sergeant since they have a vampire in their troops. Hey, Dracula! Were you there during World War II? That is true. I was there. But yes, it is true. I was there in World War II. I even saw Adolf Hitler himself. And after knowing Adolf Hitler and his Nazis, I thought the Turks were bad. The Nazis made the Turks look like a friendly neighborhood, by comparison. But during World War II, I remember like it was yesterday. One time, Nazi troops trampled into my castle and in my world. In my castle and my domicile. I tried to be friendly, but they are very hostile. So I waited until midnight, and my vampire and werewolf troops slaughtered and massacred the entire Nazi troops, and I had a midnight snack with the general of the vampires. And therefore, that's how I got my Medal of Honor during World War II against the Nazis. I remember it so well. Anyway, this is Count Dracula, telling to you all later. Thank you, Dracula, for that update. Anyway, they also have a werewolf in their team, who goes by the name Warwin Griffith as the werewolf. What is it, Dracula? Almost forgot. One time, Adolf Hitler had a thing for werewolves, and I also remember that he was planning to have an army of werewolf Nazis. Werewolf of the Third Reich. But me and my monster army put a stop to that. And I also heard that there were a couple of vampires who were also Nazis, but me and my army nicely did away with them. It's a lot better dealing with human Nazis than monstrous Nazis. Anyway, that's all I can say. Good night. My gosh, having Nazi monsters is a nightmare if you ask me. But thank goodness that Dracula and his army, they got rid of them. Anyway, now, even though they had the Frankenstein monster, a vampire, and a werewolf on their team, they thought that they become sort of a all-boys club until they decided to have a female member on their group, and the female member only appeared in until 1982, April, issue number 110, where they introduced their first female monster in their team. Dr. Myrna Medusa Rhodus, the Gorgon, or also known as Medusa. Now, she doesn't have the stare like you turn into stone if you look in her eyes, but the snakes on her hair are very venomous. And she's like the only female member of the troop, even though she is a medical doctor as well. And of course, throughout the comic book, the only person who has feelings for her is, of course, Lucky Tyler. Ain't that an interesting romance? A Frankenstein monster and a Medusa girl. It's different, I'll tell you that. And then they also teamed up with other World War II DC characters that are kind of supernatural themselves, like this one. J.A.K.E., aka G.I.Robot. Now, he's a mechanical soldier, a robot who was created by the US government as a robot going into war and deal against the Nazis, and he also helps out some of his troops who are friends of his. His programming is be a US soldier and always help his troops whenever they are needed. Now, sadly, in the last issue of the Creature Commando comics, the war was over, and we won during World War II. So in Weird War Tales, issue number 123 in 1983, that's when it's time that the Creature Commando are no longer needed. So they all pack themselves into a rocket ship and drift off into space, never been seen again. And of course, that's how it ended in this graphic novel. But not for long, because the modern version of the DC decided to come back and they made this, which I wish I'll love to have a graphic novel on that one, and it's this one. Creature Commando issue number 1 back in May 2000. So I guess the year 2000 decided to bring these guys back, and it has the old members, except their lieutenant. Chavez decided to leave the team and go off on his own. So the Creature Commando has a new leader in their group, and it's none other than Lieutenant Ben Hunter. Now, Lieutenant Ben Hunter was once a U.S. Army soldier, but now he starts controlling the Creature Commando and become in charge, and him and his Creature Commando were battling against terrorist organizations and also, well, terrorist organizations who are part of the Third Reich. Now, they had the original team, and they also brought in some new ones as well, like Gunnar McKay, the cyborg. Now, Gunnar McKay is like he's like a soldier version of RoboCop. He must have been wounded during the war, so they rebuilt his body with mechanical parts. And they also had this soldier in their group, G.I. Zombie, a soldier who is actually an undead zombie, who still fights for his country. You know, it's just like General R. Munger always says, when there's a threat like this, we need Hail Mary Path here. We need raw power. We need monsters. You know, that's why I love October. I love the smell of Halloween in the afternoon. And of course, the whole project about the monsters being soldiers. I know what General S. Patton would say. You magnificent buzzard, I read your book! And then when DC becomes the New 52, they had this one character who was once part of the Creature Commando, and he was also part of the Project M. And then they decided to have this character do a solo comic. And this issue they made in 2011 is this: Frankenstein, Agent of S.H.A.D E. Now, what does S.H.A.D E stands for? It stands for S.H.I.E.L.D. stands for the Superhuman Advanced Defense Executive. That's what S.H.I.E.L.D. stands for. And of course, you have this character here, Frankenstein. Now, unlike Lucky Tyler, this character, he is named Frankenstein. And I know some of you are saying, Frankenstein is the name of the scientist, not the monster, but this monster preferred to be called Frankenstein. And he's kind of like a soldier version of the Incredible Hulk, but not angry. But he carries a Gatling gun and a giant sword, which he claimed it came from Michael the Archangel. Anyway, the Agent of S.H.A.D E, they're a part of the Creature Commando, and instead of dealing against Nazis or terrorist organization, now in the New 52 issues, now they're battling against Lovecraftian creatures. Monsters from another dimension who wants to destroy the human race and rule everything. So it's always up to Frankenstein, and of course a couple of other members like Father Time. I know what you're saying. That looks like a schoolgirl. You see, Father Time was an old man who is actually immortal, and I know they took that a little bit from Doctor Who, but he's an old man that his body died, but his soul went inside of a Chinese schoolgirl with a domino mask and a schoolgirl outfit, but still kicks butt. Weird, huh? But the most interesting of all, that Frankenstein also have an on-again, off-again girlfriend named Lady Frankenstein, a four-arm Bride of Frankenstein monster. A Frankenstein monster with four arms. Now, the reason why they're kind of in a dismal relationship, they once were together until they had an offspring child, but it turned out to be an abomination. It kept killing all the innocent people. So, the spawn of Frankenstein, they called him, he told Frankenstein and Lady Frankenstein to kill him, or else he will go on a rampage and he cannot control it. So after they killed him, Lady Frankenstein and Frankenstein decided to break up. But throughout the entire issue, he still has feelings for her, and she just still cannot get over the child. And she's afraid that it's going to happen all over again. If they try to have a child again, it's going to start all over again. But Frankenstein still has feelings. That's kind of sad if you ask me. And they also have other members like Callus, the Mummy, who is actually a military medic. So pretty much he's a doctor who helps the wounded, and he's a mummy. Who would have thought about a mummy who is a doctor? Oh yeah, and also Frankenstein come in another comic book issue. Of course, Frankenstein was a part of the Seventh Soldier. And of course, he also came in this issue called Frankenstein and the Creatures of the Unknown, when they're battling against Nazis in the beginning, and then the Lovecraftian creatures. And of course, I mean, it's like this one is like the new 52 version of the Creature Commandos. And leading that troop was not Ben Gunner, or the first lieutenant, but this one, Amanda Sheriff, Lieutenant Matthew's daughter. So now the daughter starts taking over the troops, the Creature Commandos, and also a former member of the Project M. She was the daughter of the scientist who started the Project M, except this one turned into a sea creature. She's like a female version of the Creature Lagoon, and her name is Nina Mermaid Mazursky. She's like the female version of the Creature Lagoon. So every time when Frankenstein needs to deal with monsters from underwater, he calls her for help. But of course, that is Frankenstein and S.H.A.D E, so I don't know if they're going to have Frankenstein involved in this or not. But one thing I always remember, a lot of people wanted the world to remember the Creature Commandos, so therefore what they did is this. They have done an animated shorts, a DC animated shorts of the Creature Commandos. And also I remember that the Creature Commando appeared, they also appeared in Batman Brave and the Bold, where Batman meets the Creature Commandos. And also the DC animated shorts, they also made this, Sergeant Rock and the Creature Commandos. What? Who's Sergeant Rock? Well, Sergeant Rock, the Combat Happy Joe. Now, Sergeant Rock was one of the most famous war heroes in the DC Comics. And of course, you can see where my index finger is at. He's been promoted as General Rock. Now, Sergeant Rock was one of the most popular... He was one of the most popular DC war hero. And of course, his full name is Frank Rock. But sadly now, ever since they did the New 52 and Rebirth, now everybody forgot about Sergeant Rock. Well, you know what they say. Old soldiers never die, they just fade away. Now, this is my point right here. Now, DC Cinematic Universe, this is what I'm telling you. I'm giving you some good things right here. So come on, movies. Make a movie of the Creature Commando. I mean, come on. I would spend all my money to see you guys make a movie adaptation of the Creature Commando. Let them deal with the Nazis. Let them deal with the terrorists. Heck, let them deal with the Lovecraftian creatures. I don't care. Have Frankenstein replace Lucky Tyler. I mean, make something really, 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 really good. And forget about making those new Batman movies. We had the Tim Burtons. We had the Schumachers. We had the Nolans. Now we're really tired of Batman movies. It's time to focus more on the other DC superheroes, and who knows, maybe you can have Batman join the Creature Commandos. I don't care, as long as the Creature Commandos are there. Now, if you guys make the movie of the Creature Commando, it would make the Universal Monster have a run of their money. But that's not all. Also, Marvel Monsters have a run for their money. Yeah, that's right. Marvel had a group of monsters who are superheroes too. Blade was just a stepping stone. Now, all these Marvel monsters also did become soldiers and become the Howling Commandos of S.H.A.D E. And now in the later comics, now it's Miss Deadpool and the Howling Commandos. As you can see, Deadpool's wife, Shikra, Queen of the Monsters, starts running the show. Heck, right now I'm hearing that the MCU, they're planning to make a brand new MCU version of Blade. Huh. I guess Disney is not an anti-vampire after all. And also, I also heard that they're also planning to make Morbius the living vampire. But come on, DC! Make the Creature Commando! Hit him where it hurts! Anyway. What's going on? Well, at least the Joker movie is doing pretty good at the box office. I always know that Joaquin Phoenix is a clown shoo-in. He just has to pop up somewhere. Anyway, folks, if any of you guys love my review of the Creature Commando, please leave a comment down below, hit like and subscribe, and let me know if I'm right about this. I mean, this might be very interesting. Well, this is a multi-voice reviewer telling you all, thank you for watching. Our Tan Hut. And if you want to know what my next review is going to be, it's going to be a remake of one of my old films, and it is Hocus Pocus. So stay tuned. I put a spell on you, and now you're gone. I put a spell on you, because you're mine.